Dear viewers, we are interrupting the morning broadcast for some important news. London police are looking for a woman suspected in a large-scale theft. In addition, the victim claims that he was attacked with a weapon and calls it a robbery. The suspect may be armed. The police officers have created a sketch. We ask everyone now who sees the image and who knows and fits the description to call. Suddenly, the TV turns off and a nanny named Nancy rushes to us to finish our breakfast as soon as possible. Otherwise, we'll be late for school. There was a terrible downpour that day. Although this is quite usual for our city, my twin brothers, Weston and Weston, and I got up this morning to go to school. By the way, today was the first day of work for our new nanny. We had Aunty Agnes to stay with us for a while before, but she moved to Europe to stay with her daughter. It was then that my father hired Nancy. She was a newcomer, had 2 degrees, 7 years of experience, and excellent references. Despite her young age, she immediately instilled confidence in my parents, and they hired her. Back then, I had no idea she was not who she pretended to be. By the way, I'm in high school. My name is Paul. I'm the oldest child in the family. There are 3 of us boys, so it can be difficult to cope with us. My brothers and I love to watch TV. They watch cartoons, and I like movies, especially at breakfast or before bed. I was almost late for school today. Because of the heavy downpour, they let us go home early. My father said that the twins had extra classes today at school with Mrs. Anderson, and they would stay there alone for 2 hours, so I went home alone. We drove up to the house on the school bus. I saw from afar that some strange guy had come to our house. He stood on the doorstep and talked to our new nanny. I noticed he had tattoos everywhere, even on his fingers. Nancy, when she saw me, immediately told him to go away and not to come again. When I asked who it was, she said it was a beggar and asked for money. But this is stupid, right? Would such a person beg for money? And if that, but why only come to our house, and what did they talk about for so long? Nancy cooked dinner. I sat down at the table and, out of habit, turned on the TV. There was the news again. In the media, everyone kept repeating about the search of a suspect in a robbery attack. The only thing that confused me that the sketch seemed familiar. I saw it for about a second, then Nancy turned off the TV and said watching it and eating was harmful. She went into another room, and in my memory I was scrolling through the picture and I saw and realized that Nancy reminded me of him. That must be a coincidence. Later, the twins came back, and she also did not allow them to watch TV. Mom and Dad were late at work, so they asked Nancy to put the kids to bed. And in my head, I kept thinking about Nancy and that idiot for an hour. I went into my room, searched the internet, and found the sketch and began to analyze it again. I wrote to my friend, Josh, about my assumptions, and he was slightly alarmed and asked if I thought my parents had hired a criminal. I told them that this was exactly what I've been thinking just then. And then I remembered that we hadn't even checked her documents properly. What if all those recommendations were fake? She came to work as soon as we hired her. Within an hour, that is. After all, she came to work as soon as we hired her. Within an hour, that is. It felt like she had just packed a suitcase with things lying around nearby. She constantly looked around, turned off the news, and did not allow us to watch them. Josh told me to go through the documents while he searches for her profiles on the internet. I began to observe her and saw a huge scar on her wrist. In addition, she wore prescription glasses, but when I looked closely at them, I saw that it was just ordinary glasses. I asked her last name and she hesitated a bit, and she answered, Nancy Palmer. But such a reaction seemed even stranger to me. When she put the little ones to bed, I quickly went down to her room and rummaged in her things. I found a wig in her suitcase. Oh no, I couldn't believe it. What if she needs it as a disguise? In addition, she had things, some kind of psychedelic drugs. And oh yes, jackpot, I found her notebook. As soon as I opened the first page, I saw a photo in it. She was standing there with that guy who came to our house earlier. They were hugging. It looked like they were dating. But why did she lie to me? Paul, what are you doing here? Nancy's voice came from behind me. I shuddered with fear. This is awkward. I walked away from her purse, skillfully hiding her notebook there, and put the photo in my pocket. And then he blurted out something like, Sorry, I was looking for the TV remote. You hid it somewhere. She said he was in the kitchen and I ran out. Sweat appeared on my forehead from fear. The next day, I showed her a photo and a police sketch to Josh. He noticed a striking resemblance. We began to come up with a plan to expose her. Why not just tell your parents? He asked. But if it were that simple, I wouldn't risk my ass for a notebook. I explained to him once again that my parents are busy people, and once again I needed a serious enough reason to take up their time from work. Now, this is just my theory, but I need proof, facts, you know? All the better said, it will come in handy in the police, I said. My brothers and I returned home after school, dined without a TV, and the little ones went to the room to do homework. I decided to sit in the kitchen and observe. Nancy was clearly nervous and asked when I would go to do my homework. I said that they had not asked anything and sat there pretending to be on my phone. But in fact, I was looking at her. She finished up in the kitchen and said that she'd be in her room in case anything happened. Then I asked her to go to the store to buy milk. The boys allegedly asked. She agreed and went to the shops. And now I rushed. I again looked through her things, found the notebook, and saw an old plane ticket. She flew in here 4 years ago. She had numbers of random companies selling wigs, phone numbers, and some dudes written as Tornado, Dose, and Anti-Cop, and so on. Then I found a business card for a gun store, and she had money at the bottom of the suitcase. A lot of money. I took photos of everything and left the room. A couple of minutes later, just as Nancy returned home with milk, our house was surrounded by police. Neighbors ran out into the streets with surprised curiosity, and I stood smiling and watched as they put the handcuffs on her. An hour later, my parents arrived. They were also taken in for interrogation. I stayed at my home with the kids and was proud of myself. After all, I solved it. I found and turned in a criminal. The twins were shocked, but not scared. They took it more for a game, in which I was the hero in the end. I put them to bed myself, went into Nancy's room, and began to pack her things. In her purse, I also found documents in her name. It turns out she was previously a brunette, and now she has become a blonde. But her wig was red. She must have robbed people in it, I thought. I also found her passport in a false name, which served as further evidence. For a second, I felt sorry for her, so young and already a criminal. Suddenly, I heard noises in the house. I thought that my parents had returned. I was delighted with them. I could not wait to tell them how Josh and I cleverly figured out her plans and ran into the living room. There was a gang of people in masks. There was 3 of them, and one of them seemed to be a girl. She had red hair and she was wearing a mask, but I recognized her eyes. They were exactly the same as the police sketch. "This can't be happening. You said that no one was at home," she shouted at one of the guys in the mask. She said that he saw people leaving the house and thought that there was no one left since the light above was not on. She began to swear loudly, then said to me, "I'm sorry, kid. You woke up at the wrong time," and already pointed a weapon at me. At that moment, my whole life passed before my eyes. Right then, the door opened with all its might and hit her right in the back of the head. She lost consciousness. Then someone hit her the other 2 in the heads and they also passed out. I closed my eyes in fear. Then I opened them. I saw the guy with the tattoos was standing in our living room. He came to see Nancy. He said he had come for her things and saw through the windows how someone was threatening me. I was ready to hug him. We called the police again. They arrived and took the gang to the station. This time, my parents stayed at home with us. In the end, it turned out that Nancy, our nanny, really came to us from another country, but without the bad intentions like I thought. The fact was that she had previously married to one person. Their life did not work out, and her husband began to hit her because he lost his job. Nancy endured this for a long time, but then she found a friend, the same guy with tattoos. He helped her make fake documents, bought a wig, saved up money, and they left to the first place that came to their mind. They dreamed of starting a new life here and get married. They dreamed of starting a new life here and getting married. I really have education and references from past jobs. Sorry I didn't tell you about the past. I was afraid that you would not hire me because of this. My parents agreed with her. They really would not have dared to hire her knowing that she was on the run from her ex-husband. But now, since because of me and my family is in an awkward position and owed her, my mother kept her job. As for the gang, they're in jail and serving a well-deserved sentence. By the way, I just watched the news about this. "Boys, I'm shutting down the TV. You'll be late for school," the nanny shouted as usual in her repertoire. And yet, this story has changed our lives. After the parents went through the horror and fear of their children, they stopped working so much, started coming home earlier, communicating with us more, and kept an eye on me so that I wouldn't put someone else in prison. If you like the story, then press the like button and leave us some comments.